Welcome back to new episode. Today we're looking at the 12 apostles, or sometimes called the 12 disciples of Jesus Christ. During the story of the gospel, these were the 12 closest friends and followers of Jesus. So as we talk about these 12 apostles, while often the stories seem to have Jesus meeting the apostles for the first time, others might allude to some of the apostles knowing Jesus before, such as a shared connection to John the Baptist, who himself baptized Jesus Christ, and that we're going to talk about here. The first apostles that Jesus recruited were 4 men who were fishing: Peter, Andrew, James, and John. Let's start with Peter. Peter is specifically mentioned that his original name was Simon, or sometimes spelled Simeon, but that Jesus gave him the name Peter. Now with Peter, his brother Andrew also joined Jesus. Following spreading the gospel after the resurrection, Andrew was crucified in the city of Paris in Greece, though he didn't believe himself to be worthy and to be crucified in the same fashion. So he was crucified on an X-shaped cross, now known as a Street Andrew's cross. In Patrick's there now sits the Basilica of Street Andrew, whereas the remains and relics have been kept. When we learned about Peter and Andrew giving up fishing to join Jesus, we also learned of 2 other brothers, James and John. There was 2 James, with this one being James the Great, with great meaning older. James has shown to have quite a temper in the Gospels, even asking Jesus to rain down fire on a Samaritan village that did not welcome. Jesus, of course, did not. James is murdered in the pages of Acts, beheaded by a king named Herod. Following his death, though there are conflicting theories as to why some believe that James might have spread the gospel through Spain before returning to Judea, where he was executed. James had a little brother that was also an apostle, John. Like his brother James, he also had his temper. Jesus even went so far as to call the brothers what is translated as sons of thunder. Following the death and resurrection, John had a vital role in spreading of the gospel, as he's the only apostle believed to have died of old age. Let's move to Matthew, who is also referenced as Levi in 2 of the Gospels. We believe that these are the same person. We get an occupation for this apostle, who was a tax collector who immediately gives up his job and invites Jesus and his apostles to a meal. Now let's cover Thomas. The story you may know is where Thomas is in doubt at the resurrection of Jesus, giving him the name Doubting Thomas. We now move to Philip. There is not a lot known about the life of Philip before and after the events of the New Testament. It's also easy to confuse the apostle Philip with a prominent evangelist also called Philip. We also have Bartholomew, who is often referenced with Philip, and they may have been introduced to Jesus at around the same time. I mentioned earlier that there were 2 James. The second James was often called James the Less since he was younger. There is very little written about him. He usually only appears in lists of the apostles by name. We also have the problem of too many Jameses, so several characters may have been confused. So even his post-resurrection spreading of the gospel is unsure. Next up, we have Simon the Zealot, or so he's called. He's called the Zealot and the list of apostles to distinguish from Simon, who becomes Peter. He's often tied to Jude, another apostle, as they supposedly ventured across Armenia, Egypt, and Lebanon. As usual, both his and Jude's deaths are unsure. Now, the last of the original 12 apostles is Judas Iscariot, the one who betrayed Jesus and then hung himself as told in the book of Matthew. Judas was replaced by an apostle named Matthias, and this is interesting in that his calling was not made by Jesus. As Jesus had already ascended, he seems to have been in the crowds following and supporting Jesus, but was only called up to be among the apostles, following Judas, his betrayal. But hopefully this was an interesting starting place. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching this video.